We'd like to start today's session with recognizing that we are all joining from different places, mentally and emotionally. Hurricane Helene occurred only a few weeks ago, and the damage is still being felt. Some in our states are recently regained power, and some are still navigating their living situation. This may be you or someone you know and care about. For many of our teachers and school staff, this may be your school babies. We'd also like to recognize Hurricane Milton's impact. For our mindfulness moment this morning, please take a second to check in with yourself and perhaps provide a piece of encouragement to others in our chat. All right, so diving in, my name is JC, and I have the honor of leading the South Carolina Schools Network with Wholespire. Our mission is to identify and promote healthy eating and active living strategies in South Carolina public schools that empower key stakeholders and encourage collaboration among those seeking to improve student health and academic achievement.
And good morning. My name is Erika Ayers. I'm the Executive Director for the South Carolina Governor's Council on Physical Fitness. A mission of the Governor's Council is to advance the health of all South Carolinians through the support of physical activity. And for several years now, the Schools Network and the Governor's Council have been working together jointly. And an example of that collaboration is this webinar series. I think we're in our 3.5 season of this webinar series. So if you've been along with us for the ride, thank you so much. If this is your first time, welcome. The purpose of this webinar series is to enhance collaboration between schools and communities using the whole school, whole community, whole child model as a framework to support student health. And today we're going to be focusing on the components of social and emotional climate, as well as looking into counseling, psychological, and social services that are available for our students, whether it's in the school or community setting. And before we introduce our speaker for today, we're going to open up our first poll to find out who y'all are, who's joining us. And while these poll results are coming in, I'm going to pass it along to JC to introduce our panelists for the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. All right. We have a wide variety joining us today, so welcome all. Today, we are very excited to learn from Shantal Saldaña. Shantal is the manager of school outreach at Erika's Lighthouse. She leverages her expertise in youth mental health to empower and educate school professionals, students, and families. This session will introduce no-cost mental health education programs that can be easily implemented in schools and organizations to educate students, professionals, and families on mental health literacy, depression education, and suicide prevention. We look forward to learning about classroom education, family engagement, empowerment clubs, and staff development.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Welcome everyone and good morning. I'm just going to start sharing my screen here. So again, welcome. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Yes, my name is Shantal Saldaña, and I'm really happy to be here bringing you Erika's Lighthouse resources, but also just talking overall about thinking about how we can improve and bring just more support for our students and their mental health. So on screen right now, you will see a QR code. Everything that I'll discuss today is available to you for free through our organization's resource portal. When you scan the QR code, you can do so in your phone. You get access to everything by creating a resource portal account. It takes like 2 to 3 minutes to fill out. So I just want to make sure that you know that's there so that you can walk away today with all of the resources that I'll talk about, whether you use them now or later, or just pass them on to someone that can use them. The other way to get to all of those is just by going to the website. It's ericaslighthouse.org. You can sign up there as well, but the QR code sometimes makes it a little bit easier. Now, can we use like the thumbs up? I just want to know who is familiar with Erika's Lighthouse, maybe has used us in the past. Can we use maybe the thumbs up? I see a couple on here. Oh, more than a couple are floating. Awesome. So for those of you who are familiar with Erika's Lighthouse, just in the last school year, we've added a ton of resources on there. So hopefully you can see some of the new things that we have. And then if you're not at all familiar with Erika's Lighthouse, well, welcome, and we're happy to help you and support you in any way that we can. So Erika's Lighthouse started in 2004. And this was after the loss of Erika. She was a 14-year-old student who lost her life to her depression. So this organization now is on a mission to provide free mental health programs for any school, anywhere. We actually have contact with over 50 states and about 20 international schools. So all of our resources, really, because they're online, we can reach many, many schools, many professional students, as well as families. So that is who we are as Erika's Lighthouse. Our main offices are located in North Shore, Chicago. But again, we are pretty much available everywhere. We are just a phone call away whenever you need any support. So one of the reasons we're here today, right, it's because we know that youth are in a mental health crisis. And I know that for all of you who work in community organizations, who work in schools, you might see this day to day. And always, I'm sure you're thinking about new ways to support students, or how can you bring just new supports so that mental health, it improves, right, in your building with your students. And one of the things that we can take a look at here is, in just a couple of months ago, in August of 2024, the CDC did release the newest youth risk behavior survey data. So this is just a piece of it that covers the mental health part. And what we could see is that across 10 years, nearly all indicators of poor mental health and suicidal thoughts and behaviors have really worsened. This is looking from 2013 to around 2023. So specifically, there were increases in the percentage of students who experience persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, who seriously consider attempting suicide, who made suicide plans, and who attempted suicide. So these, the latest 2-year changes, as you see on here from the last youth risk behavior survey data released, might have shown a little bit of improvement, especially on the persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. We're moving in the right direction, but as you can see, it's not quite the change that we wanted to see. And that's why we're here today, right? Looking for other ways we can support students and continue to have this as a top of mind. Now at Erika's Lighthouse, we take an upstream approach to suicide prevention, and that's why this session is titled Depression Education is Suicide Prevention, right? In this chart here, what I will show you is that black dot in the middle is one loss from suicide. Surrounding that, and I'm sorry to say, this is a representation of a school of around 2,000 students. So again, for that one loss for suicide, in the red, there around 9% of the student population we know will attempt suicide. Surrounding that, we have around 20% or 400 students who seriously consider suicide. Surrounding that in the blue, we have around 40% of students who have reported symptoms of depression. And then once surveyed, we know the students, around 70% of them believe that anxiety or depression are serious problems among their peers. So as you can see, students recognize that these are problems among their peers. 70% believe they're serious, and then 96%, perhaps they don't review them as serious, but they definitely see that anxiety and depression are problems among their peers. So again, we believe depression education is suicide prevention because we know that depression accounts for many of the issues that impact students' ability to learn or to perform, right, in any given day. We know that it impacts attendance, underachievement, behavioral concerns, and other things. We know that it touches much larger population of students, and we know that teaching depression literacy overall reduces stigma around mental health. It builds a climate of good mental health where everyone has access to this education, right? Everyone is educated about depression, knows how to help a young person find help in the building. And this could be adults, this can be peers. We know that so many people are struggling, so many students are struggling. And while suicide is actually rare, when it happens, it is truly tragic, right? Not only to a family, but to the community. So this is why we believe in this approach. Mental health literacy and depression education is suicide prevention. We know that schools are particularly, are particularly important when it comes to recognizing students. This early identification we know is critical. So it's critical to equip students just to give them what they need and what they deserve, right? Good mental health. We know that 1 out of 5 young people will experience depression before adulthood. And we know that out of these, 50% of those will be symptomatic by the age of 14. Another thing that we do know is out of those students that we are able to recognize, right, like identify early, we know that about half of those receive their first like services or touch with services through schools. And that's why you are all here, so very important. And this early identification within schools is very important. So now this is our program model. What you'll see on here are 4 different pillars that we have. And we work with these 4 different pillars in the middle. You can see those in red, yellow, blue, and gray. Because we believe that these 4 pillars work together to really create inclusive environments around mental health. We have classroom education programs that go from 4th all the way through 12th grade, right? So introducing mental health literacy and then going all the way to suicide prevention. We also have empowerment clubs because we do believe that once we empower students with the right information and the right tools, they can take this on and truly be champions for their own mental health and mental health within their buildings. We also know that it's very important to have policy and staff training. We want every adult in the building to feel confident about navigating conversations around mental health and overall feel prepared how to be a trusted adult, how to get students to help. And then very importantly, the one piece that we have in the blue here is family engagement. We know how important it is not only for students to receive this education in school, but also to bring this back home and be able to have those conversations. So that language, we need that to be at home so that these conversations can happen back and forth with students and families, but also so that families understand the importance of connecting with schools and have the language to do so. Now, so those are the 4 pillars in the middle there. And then what you see kind of like on the outside is what we call wraparound supports. We know that all of these 4 pillars are only strengthened with other supports. So for example, for those of you who are familiar with Erika's Lighthouse, you might not have seen that we now have a data center that helps us make data-driven decisions. And I'll talk a little more about that. We also have culture framework resources, as well as strategic alignments. And then we also have school-wide campaigns that are very powerful and really create, again, this environment of good mental health, reducing stigma and facilitating these conversations within a building. And just to remind everyone, if you have any questions at any point, I'm going to review these like 4 pillars of resources. Please put those in the chat and we'll get to the questions. So the first thing that I want to show you is the classroom education. As I said, we cover from 4th grade all the way through 12th grade, and we do so with 3 different levels of programming. All of our programs are available in English as well as in Spanish, and then all of our programs are video-based. So they come with a video and then the programming with it. I also want to note that our programs are approved under the Suicide Prevention Research Center Best Practice Registry. So you can find our programs there. We're, if not the only, one of the only free programs available there. And then I'll give you a summary. I'm going to show you some of the videos because I think that once you see them, you can hear kind of like the messaging, the positive messaging and the tone to these, and you can kind of start seeing how these resonate with your students. For the level 1, we believe it's ideal for grades 4 through 6. All of our programs are flexible. And with flexible, we mean you can use them along with other programs, right? You can use them as standalone, but also you can decide what your students need. If you feel like maybe you want to start in 5th grade and not in 4th, that's fine. If you feel like maybe you have some 7th graders that would benefit from this level 1, right? We're not tied to this, but we believe these are ideal. And this is how, the majority of school kind of stay within those lines. But by all means, you know what your students need best. So the level 1 is called We All Have Mental Health. And it's this introduction to mental health by understanding everyday feelings versus overwhelming feelings. So teaching students to recognize this difference, and also has a strong focus on help seeking. Teachers really and students recognize things, come to trusted adults, recognize where trusted adults can be found, and then overall how to continue having good mental health. Then level 2 is ideal for grades 5th through 9th. Again, very flexible. It is, again, fully bilingual, Spanish and English, and it's called depression awareness. So this is an introduction to depression by teaching students signs and symptoms with a strong focus, again, on that help seeking and then overall good mental health. And then we move on to level 3. And so this is kind of like a continued learning around depression with recognizing signs and symptoms, but we are also adding suicide awareness to this level. This is typically a level that gets taught more in like high school. We have suggested grades as 8 through 12. It is available in Spanish, it's available in English, and again, introduction to depression. It has introduction to suicide or suicide awareness, strong focus on help seeking, and then good mental health. So I do want to show you for this level 1, the video. I can just switch over here. And this is the entire video that the students get to watch. All right, here we go.
You can't tell how someone feels by just looking at them, or what they share online with the outside world. Our lives may look perfect, even if in reality they aren't. I'm always worrying about doing well in school, and with tests coming up, I'm not sure how much longer I can cope. My thoughts swarm around my head, sometimes keeping me up all night. Some days it's just all too much, and I feel lost in space. When I did badly on one of my tests, I just about kept it together until I got home. Then I broke down crying in front of my mom. She listened for a bit, and then she told me that just like physical health, we all have mental health. It's our feelings, our thinking, our emotions, and our moods. She then said that feeling down, angry, and stressed is a normal part of life, just like it's normal to feel happy, confident, and carefree sometimes. We all have positive and negative emotions that come and go based on what's happening around us. These are everyday feelings. Good mental health also means experiencing negative emotions. It's not always about being happy. Mom can relate to the feeling of stress. When Mom suggested I take a break from everything and do something I enjoy, I actually took her advice. So I made myself a hot chocolate, snuggled up in a blanket, and watched a movie. And you know what? Afterwards, I felt so much better. Mom should take her own advice.
Most of us only ever share the good things. We don't like to share how we really feel. Every morning when I wake up, negative thoughts stream through my head. Getting out of bed and pretending I'm okay takes all the energy I have. As the day goes on, the negative thoughts turn from a stream into a river. Water rushes through my head so loudly, it's hard to concentrate in class. And some days it's so bad, it feels like a waterfall that's trying to pull me over the edge. Everything is so overwhelming. I didn't think my friends would understand if I told them how down I was feeling. But when Sasha opened up to me about how stressed she was feeling, I told her. I wasn't sure how to bring up how I've been feeling, so I started by saying that I didn't feel like myself. Just her listening made me feel like she understood. She told me some things that had helped her, so I tried them too, but it didn't make much of a difference. Even when I tried to be around my friends, I felt alone. The things I used to enjoy weren't fun anymore.
I was really worried about Andre and not sure what to do. He was quiet and wasn't hanging out with us like he used to. So I asked our teacher for some advice. He suggested that I get Andre to speak to him, since his negative feelings weren't going away.
I didn't want to speak to an adult, but I also didn't want to keep feeling so down, so I went. He said that sometimes we have overwhelming feelings that can be more intense than our everyday feelings. These feelings hang around for a long time and change the way we feel, think, and behave. They can stop us from doing what we want to in life. That's what I was going through. He also said that if we're physically unwell, we let people know. We ask for help. It should be no different with mental health. Sometimes our overwhelming feelings are brought on because of things in our life. Sometimes they happen for no reason at all. After hearing this, I felt much less alone, and it felt good to talk. Scientists have found exercise can help when you're feeling low. So, my teacher encouraged me to sign up to the school soccer team, which Sasha was already in. I still have days when the river is there, but now I'm beginning to understand my mental health. I'm coping with my emotions and seeing a mental health professional. My teacher reminded me that my friends, my family, teachers, and lots of others at school are there to help just as much as he is. I had no idea that people around me could be so understanding, and while it's not always easy to talk about my mental health, the person I'm talking to might be able to help. If you don't feel like talking, that's fine. You could try writing, sports, reading, art, music, playing with your pet, whatever makes you feel better.
If you're the person someone talks to when they're struggling, just listen with no pressure or judgments. You don't have to have an answer. If you feel unsure about anything, you can speak to a trusted adult. Talking about mental health doesn't have to be difficult. It's something we all need to take care of, just like our bodies.
All right. So while I get back here, let me just begin to tell you some ideas of where you can implement this. So some of the ways that the schools implement this, again, it's very flexible, is through things like, for example, health class. That's one of the places where this could fit in, but also just doing homeroom, advisory time, or if there's any specific place to actually have this lesson, then you can implement it there. So there are many ways in which buildings incorporate this or any other levels into the school year. Again, for some states, they have like a mandate where we need to teach mental health. Some other ones, really, it's a mental health champion in the building that wants to bring this information to students. So, all right. So what the level 1 program components are it comes with the video that you just watched. And then what you will have will be the facilitator instructions on how to teach this program. And it does come with the handouts. So you'll have your slideshow, the handouts, and script that you would need for each of the slides in the slideshow. So you're guided through this whole entire level 1. And then at the end, you have some optional exit tickets that kind of get students to practice what they learned. And then you can hand out some student bookmarks that are also very helpful, and that give students ideas of things they can do for their good mental health. Now, there are 2 options for all 3 of our levels of how you can teach them. If you're looking to meet the National Health Education Standards, our programs do have these standards under the full program. The full program consists of 4 lessons. So it's really 3 lessons, and then the 4th one is an assessment, and they take about 35 to 40 minutes each. Now, let's say you don't have the time or the breakout time to do 4 sessions. We also have a 1-day lesson. The 1-day lesson is just as informative for students. They receive all of that they need. It's just shorter, and it can be done in 1 day. It typically takes it can take, again, 35 to 40 minutes, but I think that also depends on how engaged the students are. By all means, it can be completed within a period. So now I want to show you, this is the level 2. One of the differences that you'll find on here with the videos is that our level 2 and our level 3 have stories of real teens. These are their stories. They're not scripted. They are their true stories with how depression came into their lives and how they continue having good mental health. For this specific level, for those of you who were familiar with Erika's Lighthouse before, we just launched the new version of this level 2. The old version is still available for those of you who were like, I really like the old one. It is still available on the resource portal, but we now have added new stories and changed the format a little bit. So this is all brand new. And let me just show you what that looks like, if this will allow me. All right, there we go.
I'm Lindsay. I live in Addison, Illinois. When you're a first-generation student like me, living with immigrant parents, mental health is a hard topic to discuss. In Vietnam, it's hard to talk about your mental health because there's someone with worse problems than you. I think that my depression impacted my family. They didn't understand that not cleaning my room didn't mean that I was lazy, and not brushing my hair, not showering was because I had depression. They thought it was because I just didn't want to do those things. It actually started when I was 6 years old, and it was something that I didn't have an understanding of. I described it as little tornadoes in my head because it became this repetitive pattern that I didn't want to happen, but it was something that I could not control. I would not get up in the morning, I would not shower, I would not brush my teeth, and it got into my eating habits, my sleeping habits, and it scared me. I didn't ask for help when I was younger. I didn't know how to access the resources within my school. People didn't talk about having depression when you're 6 years old.
All right, so that is just one of the vignettes available for the students that are on level 2. However, there are many more students in there. For the level 2, it's shaped very similar to the level 1. However, this one does have introduction to depression by teaching students the signs and the symptoms. But it's aligned the same way where it comes with the videos, the full version or in segments, depending on if you choose the full program, the 4 lessons or the 1-day lesson. It comes with student workbooks. So students actually get to have read little snippets of each of those students' stories, and they get to choose which one they want to read about. And this really helps with that, like connecting, right? For your students, they might see themselves in one of these student stories. And they might just connect a little bit more with that. So they get to choose with these student workbooks. It does come with a slideshow. Again, each slideshow has a script for the facilitator. And then it does have student bookmarks with the signs and symptoms of adolescent depression on the back, and good mental health activities on the other side of the bookmark. Now, for level 2, as well as for level 3, we do have optional self-referral cards. So again, these are optional. You don't have to use them. But what the self-referral cards do is they help us identify. Remember at the beginning, I was talking about early identification, identifying students who might need help. So these cards can be handed out at the end of the lessons, and you'll be indicated, like, which day, if it's the full program or the 1-day lesson, they're handed out that day. And what they do is they ask the students if they need to talk to a mental health specialist within 24 hours, within the next week. And then the last option is they can choose, if they don't need to talk to anyone, they can just choose that. The idea with these cards, if you're going to utilize them, just best practices is hand them out to every student. What we want to do is we want to avoid a student maybe not handing one in because their peer, on their left side did not hand one in. So these are for everybody. They turn them in, they fill them out. And then for those students that are requesting some help, then you're able to identify them and bring them to your mental health professional. Now, also best practices are, because we're asking students if they need help within 24 hours, you wouldn't really teach this on a Friday, right, or before a holiday or in half day, just because we know that we are asking them if they want to talk to someone immediately. So we want to make sure that you do have those services for them. Now, here are all the pictures of all of the students throughout level 2 and level 3. And I like to put them on here so that you can see these not only are students that look different, but they also have different backgrounds, different stories, which really resonate with and look like students in your classroom. So each of the students, you can browse through really like all of them. They just have unique stories. All that they talk about is how their depression came about, but also who helped them and what helped them and how they continue having good mental health. So as you can see, we have tons to choose from, and your students would have tons to choose from too. And then as you move on from level 2 to level 3, they can pick and choose to do some of the different stories. But we also have 6 of these students are also from level 2, they were recorded for level 3. So you actually get to follow their story into that when they're a little bit older. Those last three on the bottom here are newest students, so we just recorded them just last year. And now we have level 3, so depression education and suicide awareness. I also just have a really quick snippet of the full video, but this is an introduction to depression and suicide by recognizing those signs and symptoms. Again, we're focusing on this one strongly on help seeking and then good mental health. So let me do this one for you.
I would say depression is like gravity in the sense that it's a force that's constantly with you and constantly has its effect on you, but it's always kind of redirecting your thoughts and your feelings into a more negative space.
If you find that you're facing something that is unbearable, it's okay to get help. No matter what anyone has said to you, no matter if you feel embarrassed or you feel like you're alone, first, you're not alone. Do not be scared and seek the help that you need to seek. Never let that one person stop you from overcoming this, because you can overcome it. And this will not be the end all be all. You will be okay.
This doesn't have to be the end, and that if our lives are books, let's say, if our lives are books, then depression does not have to be the entire book, and it also does not have to be the last chapter. It is just a chapter in the middle, and you can just flip through the pages, and there's more at the end that doesn't look like that anymore.
You are special. You are incredible. And things are really tough right now. You will overcome all of it.
All right, so that was just the teaser for that level 3. Get back in the screen here. And as you can see here, it is structured just the same as our other 2 levels. So there's a video, facilitator instructions, student workbook, slideshow. Those self-referral cards are available to you again, and then the full program is available that meets the National Health Education Standards, as well as the one-day lesson. Now, to support these 3 levels, we also have optional program additions, and these include things like we have games. We have a Jeopardy game that you can play with the students to kind of like add on if the students are interested in continuing the conversation. You can also utilize these as like boosters. Let's say you taught a program like early on the school year. You want to choose somewhere like in the middle of the year to kind of bring this information back through games, through activities, through worksheets. We have a simulator, like a text from a friend, where the students kind of, go in and respond what would be a good response for their friends. If they were, and this is done in a simulator from texting. There's a Jeopardy game available in English and in Spanish. And there's also other resources like the ones I have on screen. One is having supporting conversations with peers, and it teaches them, let's say, what a peer might say, what would be an unhelpful response, and then how do we construct a helpful response. So it teaches them kind of how to do that. And then on the other, like on the second page, it allows them to practice putting in helpful responses. Then also just overcoming barriers, asking for help. We know for a lot of students, sometimes it's even hard to, for them to ask for homework, for like help with homework. So can you imagine, if they are in this situation where they don't know, where they feel like there's these barriers of asking for help around their mental health, right? We want to make sure that they're aware of the barriers that they can come by. And then, instead of thinking this one way, why don't we try thinking this, this other way? So we're helping them look at things differently, especially asking for help. These are only a couple or like a few of the ones that are available on the resource portal. You can utilize them however you feel is best. You can also just utilize them as standalone activities if you feel like one of these would really help your students, and just bring that into your curriculum, into your week, into your school year. And the last thing I want to show you that's kind of a program for like, education, all that goes, inside the classroom education pillar is a Recharge. This is a 5-minute classroom break tool to boost mental health. It's available in English and it's in Spanish as well. And this is meant to be used by any educator in your building. It's really easy to implement, but it really focuses on creating those environments where we are telling students and we are showing them that their mental health matters, that we recognize that sometimes they need a break. We all need to recharge, right? As adults and as students, we know that we're, so busy, and life just gets busy and it gets, overwhelming at times. So we all need to take a break. So this recharge program has 8 or 9 different categories of activities that can be done within 5 minutes. So the educator would set a timer for 5 minutes. The students get to choose one of the activities. And here, so you can see we have like activities for free time, breathing exercise, visualization, journaling, rest, mindfulness, and positivity. Each one of those categories has 8 or 9 different activities that go along with that category. Here, there's just an example of a journaling one. So you would set a timer for 5 minutes, give them the instructions. Then there's also some regrouping instructions on the next slide. And then you all go back to doing whatever period you were in. This could be done in a health class. This could be done in a music class. This could be done anytime during the day, during advisory in the morning, or even outside, because this is also mobile friendly. So if every educator in your building had access to this and the students got to try, different tools of how to take breaks and how to recharge, you can see that throughout a school year, the students would get to really try various activities so that they can start recognizing what works for them. Because journaling might work for me, but mindfulness might work for you. So unless we allow them the space to really try different activities, so they can take those with them, after in their adult life, really. I just want to, before I move on to the next pillar, I want to see if there are any questions in the chat. Let me see. I don't see any, but please feel free to add those on there if you have any questions around classroom education. I don't see anyone, I don't see anyone typing either. So I'm going to move on, but please add those and then we'll keep an eye on the chat. So now I want to talk to you about empowerment clubs. So we talked about educating students, right? And now that we are giving them the tools, we need to let them practice these skills and practice the tools. And one of the good ways that we have to do so is by creating empowerment clubs. These are good mental health clubs that create activities that not only bring good mental health to their entire building, but really help students feel empowered. So I have our empowerment club coordinator information here. If you're interested in starting a club within your community organization or within your school, you would reach out to Derek and he'll guide you into everything you need to do to set up a club. What the clubs need is just advisors and then 1 or more students that are interested in creating good mental health activities throughout their buildings. Just a few to show you kind of what the students do in these clubs. I like this one. It's called Follow the Footprints. This is a great activity to do because we know some of you might be like a social worker or a school counselor. You might recognize that there are students that might not know where your office is, depending on how big your district is or your building. But also you might just be a health educator. You might be just a mental health champion that wants to be recognized as a trusted adult. So these footprints can be used to put on the wall, and they lead into that trusted adult's office. So we already have a set that has mental health facts in it, but you can also fill them out with information that you want your students to see. It could be mental health, it can be encouragements, it could be any message that you want. And these footprints would be put on like a hallway or on a wall, and they would lead into that trusted adult's office. So it's just a great activity to create awareness. Again, this help seeking. Where can they find a trusted adult? You're opening up your door. And also for some of you that you might want to increase the your students walking in or coming to get your help or just coming to talk to you. This is a great activity to use. So you can see on here we have some students with the footprints on there. No, we have other activities kind of like this one, just very small token, but it's an encouragement. Sometimes all we need to do is increase that positivity within a building. So the students get to prepare these. Some of the clubs lead these. You can also use any of these activities if you're not a club. So if you're an educator that wants to bring some of these, please go ahead and take whatever you need from the resource portal. You don't have to sign up for a club to use these, but these are typically who uses them, right? So these, there already comes with a template for you to cut and then put any type of mint that you want on there for a little encouragement, and you can add any message that you want your students to see. This next one, we have How Full Is Your Cup? This activity is one of my favorite ones. I think it really creates this empathy within the building, but also school connectedness. And we know that school connectedness is a protective factor, protecting students' mental health. We want to create awareness and empathy that everyone in your building might be feeling, different. They might be relaxed for that day, but they might also feel like they're stressed, overloaded, overwhelmed, right? And that's not only for students, but also for professionals in the building. So what this one does is how full is your cup? So the students get to do like hot chocolate, lemonade, whatever they want to serve. And then people that, grab one, they kind of mark where they're at. Sometimes they do the sticky notes, for example, and they'll put them over however they're feeling that day, really. So as you can see on this picture, many more people were feeling like overwhelmed or stressed. And it creates empathy that knowing, what others are going through that day. You might not see them, but they are, whatever they're going through, they're feeling overwhelmed that day. For some other ones, they're feeling relaxed, which is a great thing. But I think this creates awareness for educators to see that what their students are going through, but also for students to understand what the adults in the building are going through. Now, I also talked as a wraparound support around school campaigns. So this here is a Positivity Pledge. This is a campaign that we do in the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. And it is a pledge that you take. There's many ways that you can utilize this. You can give this out to students, like to do every day of the month, or you can just hold it at your school, right? Like a whole group or a whole grade level. Many ways that you can use it. But what this is an entire month of May calendar with activities on each one of those days. Now you can see that the weeks here are in different colors because every week focuses on something different. So the first week is nutrition and well-being. Second one is gratitude. Third week is exercise. Fourth week is mindfulness. And the last week is reflection. This comes with a PDF of instructions on what to do each of those days. So for some of them, it might be sharing a recipe. For some of them, it might be doing an exercise or, moving like, I think for the exercise ones, yeah, it's like instructions on what to do when moving around. There's also a link to like the Jeopardy game. There's a bingo game on there. So you're instructed into everything that you need to do. Everything is already done, and it's also available in Spanish. And then the other school-wide campaign that we have, we just completed this last month. You can really utilize this any week in your school if you want to make that Suicide Prevention Week. We just use it for the month of September for Suicide Prevention Week. But this is just a 1 week campaign where each of the days we focus on different things. So education, help seeking, positivity, awareness. As you can see, we're just giving the voice. And this, again, is another one that the clubs can lead, but just any mental health champion in the building can help lead. I do see, let me see here. Before we move to family engagement, did I have a question on here? Thank you. Yes, you hit the resources. That's how you get to them. It's the QR code or the website. And yes, for the classroom break, so for recharge, each of the teachers would need to register. I think I recommend that everyone in your building, it's a free account. So if everyone in your building has access to their own username and their own password, they can just pull it up on their phone when their students need it. Or on the computer in their classroom. So I would recommend that everyone creates a resource portal account so that they can all access on their own. We definitely have some cases where they have like a main username and a password. But for a lot of these, it's just easier that everyone has their own. So they can access any of the pillars at any point that they want, and then utilize and grab whatever they want. One of the other things that you'll see on our resource portal is that at the end of any of these pillars, we do have a form that we call the report on impact form. we are a nonprofit organization and we provide all of these resources for free. And the only thing that we like to kind of capture is how many students we're reaching. So by you having an individual account, you can let us know like, hey, I use Recharge with all of my fifth graders, right? Like 200 fifth graders. So that way we know that we're having an impact with 500 fifth graders in your building, in your school, in your state. That's how we can keep kind of a track, bring these numbers back to our individual donors that continue supporting our work. So I think it's just more beneficial for everyone if you have your own account and you can tell us what you used in your classroom. I hope that makes sense. And now we want to talk to you about the family engagement resources. So family engagement resources, we know how important it is to have these conversations and again, to empower those families and caregivers to have the language, to have the education, right, to be able to recognize those signs and symptoms so they can also have this early identification and seek help from schools, seek help for their kids. So we do have 3 family workbooks that are available in English, in Spanish, and also in English audiobook. And these 3 family workbooks cover different topics. They're very easy to read. They are best shared in PDF because they have clickable links. By all means, you can print them, but I think they're just because they have clickable links within them. I recommend that if you're going to share these with your schools, with your parents, you do so through an email and just send that out so they can access all of those links. So workbook 1 is called We All Have Mental Health. And this is really what is mental health? So it has definitions of mental health literacy, talking about what stigma is, right? The effects of stigma. So helps families understand that initial introduction to mental health. The second one is called Concern About Your Child. So, you know, especially for youth, for these ages, sometimes we don't know what's typical of a specific age group and what is something that then we should be concerned about, right? So this one has a lot of tools for parents to be able to recognize when they should be concerned and when it's more of like a, you know, let's continue having conversations, let's navigate this, you know. So the parents can really help, they get really a lot of help with tools. There is, for example, embedded in there a checklist where, and this is for educators too, it's available, but for parents, it's a checklist where they can kind of like check off behaviors for 2 weeks. And in those behaviors, it includes signs and symptoms of adolescent depression, among others. So that a parent is like, you know, did I really see this? Or am I, you know, should I be concerned about this? So what they can do is they can kind of like go off of the checklist and then see if this requires for them to have a conversation. If maybe, you know, it was just like a one day, you know, something like a behavior that stood out to them, or they really need to seek help. So it helps them navigate through all of that. And then the third one is getting help. So now that they've recognized that their child might need help, what does that look like, right? What are the definitions of mental health specialists out there? What medications are there? What treatments are there? What should you ask a therapist when you're choosing one? How can you navigate insurance for coverage of mental health services? So it guides them into a ton of things that are just, we know where a lot of families get stuck in this getting help process. So again, all those are available, very easy to share. And then we also have 2 family workshops. So for many of you in your buildings, you might have parents that like to see a familiar face. So what we have is you can do the family workshop 1, which is We All Have Mental Health, or family workshop 2, Depression and Suicide Awareness. And you have the facilitator guide, you have the video that goes along with it, the slideshow, and the script, so that you can host something if you feel like your families would respond better to you hosting with a familiar face. It could be virtual or it could be in person. However, if you feel like your families just maybe might not attend, you know, either virtually or in person, we do have these 2 workshops as pre-recorded versions in Spanish and in English. So again, these could be links and you can send out to a parent. We have a template email that you can send out where you can put all of these resources for families there. You can also host something in-house, and for those parents who can't make it, then just send the recording. So however you use them, they are available there, and you just need a mental health champion to implement all of this. Different people, you know, step in different buildings. It's really meant for any educator to be able to host a workshop. Now, on the left here, you see some activities. These are available for parents and caregivers to do as standalone activities, just promoting good mental health practices at home, but also they're embedded into those workbooks. One of the ones we have on here is the How Are You Feeling Today? This really helps with those conversations at home, right? We do know that with a lot of youth, it's just about touching base, opening these conversations anytime during the day, right? You don't have to do a formal sit down, let's talk about your mental health. These can just really start with how are you feeling today and opening up those lines of communication. Another great way to do so is through this family journal that you see on screen here, because we know that not every child likes to communicate verbally. So family journals allow for students to write down what they need to communicate. And this can be a journal that can be passed on just like directly, me and mom, or it could be like a family journal where even small children can participate by doing drawings if they can't write yet, right? So you can make it whatever you want, as long as this has the end of communication, of writing down, of sharing what you need, what you're proud of, what you're happy about, what you're sad about. So really opens those channels of communication. And then we have things like mental health bingo, because in order for students to know what works for them and for their mental health, they need to try different things. So the mental health bingo comes in as pre-filled already with some mental health activities, but also as a blank one, so that families can make their own and then play the bingo at home during a break. There's another one that I really like that is a weekly planner, that it's a whole week where you would fill in as a family activities each day for that entire week. And that's a great one, for example, to send home before winter break or before spring break, so that they practice this and then they can bring something back when they come back to school. Then the bookmarks that are on the right side here, they're available in English and in Spanish on the back. And they have the QR codes for each of those workshops that I talked about, as well as those 3 workbooks. So if this is all you can do for your building or for your community-based organization, print the family workbook series and hand them out to parents so that they can access their resources at their convenient time. Do we have any questions about the family engagement? Let's see. I have a question on here. With the videos for classroom lessons, are there bilingual video options too? Yes. So the level 1 video, it is in English and Spanish. And you can kind of like switch the language. And then for the level 2 and level 3 videos, they are in English, but then they have the subtitles in Spanish, so that you can put those on there. But then all of the worksheets, the worksheets, the slideshows, and all of that is available in Spanish. Just the video for level 2 and 3 has the Spanish subtitles, as well as it's available. There's like other languages on there, just because it naturally switches to other languages. We use Vimeo, and then they are also in YouTube. So I think YouTube has a lot more capacities with languages. All right. All right, and our last pillar here is school policy and staff development. So of course, when we're talking about creating environments around good mental health, we want to make sure that we're not just focusing on the students, but that we're really kind of inviting everyone in the building to participate. So that's where we also have staff well-being activities. We want to make sure that we're also creating these environments for every adult that works in the building. So we have similar activities to what I showed you that the clubs do, but these are for staff. So you can do these at professional development days. Here we just have like these 5-minute breaks. We have like a twist of the encouragements activity on there, as well as the how full is your cup. But there are other activities that you could do throughout the school year, again, at any different time, just to make sure we're checking in with the adults and we are extending this environment to them as well. And then what we have available for staff training is staff training that it can be done individually. We do have an LMS system within that resource portal so that you can go in there and take the staff training on your own. It's a 3-part staff training, or it can be hosted for every educator in the building, or it can be even hosted, if you want to do like a virtual call with everyone, it could be district-wide. There are facilitator tools on there with slideshows, with script, with facilitator guides on how you can host this for your staff or bring this back to your community organization or for your state. We also have some white papers on there. We also recently launched a help-seeking study that is now published on our website. If you want to look more at what we found with students and help seeking, which we did see an increase on students who were able to recognize trusted adults after the classroom education. And lastly, we have a new data center, and I just want to, say for a lot of our districts and for a lot of the schools that we work with, data is very important, right? We want to make sure that what we're using is actually working and getting us to where we want to be. So through this data center, what you can access is there's a school culture survey data, which captures the answers of students, caregivers or parents, as well as employees in the building. There's also a tier 1 assessment. So assessing the practices that are currently in place in your building for that tier 1, those universal programs. And then also at the end, we send back a report with recommendations on where you can, add some more, where you can beef up kind of your programming. Then we also have pre and post data for every level for the student classroom education, as well as for the clubs. And then we also have pre and post data available so that we can see the staff, what we're learning after taking the staff training, as well as pre and post data for families after taking like the workshops, level 1 or level 2. I'm going to put this screen up here. I do want to hear if you have any questions. This QR code will lead you to the resource portal, or if you go to ericaslighthouse.org, you click on where it says register for free access and create your resource portal there. Are there any questions? I can go back to any of the pillars. I'm glad you enjoy that. Please just bring this back and share us with anyone that you feel like might need any other pillars or all of them. Yes, I'm going to put my email address on here. I know it was on the first slide, but my email is just my first name, which is Shantal at ericaslighthouse.org. If you have any difficulties creating a resource portal, if you have any questions, I'm happy to jump on a one-on-one call with each of you to see how you can incorporate any of our programs into what you're currently doing in your buildings. So for program support, we're a small team up here in North Shore, Chicago. We're a team of around 14, 15. We do service all 50 states, so we're always happy to jump on a call. Also, if you feel like we can bring these resources anywhere else, we do provide webinars and informational sessions like this. We're happy to support your buildings by hosting another one. But other than that, thank you so much for having me, and I'll just get back to the team.
Thank you, Shantal. I always love doing these because I always learn so much. And when the connection was made to bring y'all to our webinar series, it was like, oh, that's like a fantastic idea because this is such important information. And I just love that the resources are free. And that's very important to us. And when we provide these webinars is we want to make sure that when we're encouraging folks to use this information, that it's something that they can easily get access to. And I just love also, we're constantly hearing like, yes, our educators want this information in the classroom. They want to share it with the students, they want to share it with the parents, but you got to package it and make it as easy for them as possible. And that's exactly what y'all have done. So again, Shantal, just thank you so much for taking the time to be with us virtually in South Carolina. And if you loved what Shantal was sharing today, she's going to come back next month because we're like, this is way too much good information. So we're going to do like a part 2. So Shantal will be back next month. You can go to wholespire.org and register if you have not done so yet. And actually, I can pull up my screen while people are hanging out and I can show y'all the flyer that we have so far. JC, if you're available, any final comments from you?
Just a huge thank you, and very excited to learn more from you next month, as well as learning from Jack Harris from Richland 1, who is a physical education teacher who will be sharing about family engagement events. So I hope everyone will join us again in a month.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Chantal. We will be sending out the recording and any additional resources that Chantal wants to share with y'all in our follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that, as well as information on how to get certificates for completion today. And then again, just want to thank JC for always being the fabulous co-facilitator and co-host that you are. And then our moderators for today's webinar and our planning committee members, Juanita and McLean. Thank y'all so much. And then thank you everyone who keeps showing up. We really appreciate it. We're going to keep providing these webinars as long as y'all keep showing up. So do that and we'll be here for you. So with that, thank y'all, and we hope to see y'all next month.
Thank you. Looking forward to see you in November. Bye-bye.